Hi guys, it's Miss Berg again. I am now going to be going into talking about chapter 5. So I'm going to start it off by switching my camera around and we will talk about 5.1. All right, so here is 5.1. Now it is talking about dividing decimals. So this is what this entire chapter is about division of decimals. So to start it off, we are going to be talking about this. So it says the healthy wheat bakery is 560 pounds of flour to make 1,000 loaves of bread. Each loaf contains the same amount of flour. How many pounds of flour does the bakery use in each loaf of bread? Now it says you can use powers of 10 to help you find quotients. Remember, quotients is answer to a division problem. That's what quotients are. So dividing by powers of 10 is the same as multiplying by this is the decimal mode of saying a tenth. Now remember, a tenth means dividing by one place, dividing by a 10. This one is showing 1 over 100, 100th, which is dividing by 2 places, making it 2 places smaller. And then this one is saying 1 in the thousandths, which is saying you're going to make it smaller by 3 places, because remember, this fraction bar is also a division bar. So keep that in mind. All right, so it's saying that they have 560 pounds of flour, but they have to separate that into 1,000 loaves of bread. So therefore, we are going to be dividing 560 by 1,000. Now, I do want you to remember dividing. I want you to write this down. Number will be smaller. So remember, when you are getting a number to be smaller, you have to move the decimal to the left. So I'll show my little decimal and how I'm moving it to the left. So in this case, it is 560 divided by 1,000. So keep in mind that dividing, you are making it smaller. So you are going to be moving it to the left. Now, if it's by 1,000, remember each place is 10. So each place, 10 is one place, times 10, which would be 100, is 2 places. But this one is 1,000, so it actually has 3 zeros. So that is actually 3 places smaller. And how I always tell my students to look at is to look at the zeros or the exponent. That will help you out as well. So in this case, there are 3 places that you are going to be making this smaller. So where's the decimal to start off with, to begin with, on 560? If it is not given to you, it is always at the end of that number if it's not given to you. And now you're going to make it smaller by 3 places. So 1, 2, and 3. So now your answer should be 560 thousandths, or you could have said also 56 hundredths, because you don't need that 0 at the end. So just to keep in mind, they are showing you a pattern here. It's saying if you are to times it by 1, it is just 560. If you do 560 times, this is actually saying a tenth. Now remember, a tenth means dividing by one place. So then it means you're going to be moving it in one place. Then this one is actually showing 1 in the hundredths. So you would be moving it in 2 places. Then this one is showing 1,000th. So you're going to be dividing it by 1,000. So that means you're going to be moving it in 3 places. Or the other way you could also see it is dividing it by 1 which is keeping it the same, dividing it by 10, which is just moving it in, and then dividing it by 100, you're moving it in twice, and then this one, you're moving it in 3 times. Either way, it still comes out to be the same answer that we got. So I'm just letting you know that ahead of time. Now, you could also be seeing it this way with exponents. Now, again, when you are doing exponents, keep in mind that that exponent is telling you how many places you are to move it. So here, it is saying 560 divided by 10 to the 0 power. That means you're going to make it smaller by 0 places. That means that decimal will remain where it's supposed to be. This one says you are going to make it smaller by 1 place, so you're going to move it in 1 place. This one says you are going to make it smaller by 2 places, so that is another way you're going to be moving it in twice. And then this one says you're going to be moving it in 3 places, so it's going to start at the back and you're going to move it in 3, 1, 2, and 3. So that would be 56 hundredths, or you could have also said 560 thousandths would be your answer. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to the problems here. So it says Ling has 25 5/10 pounds of tomatoes to make a large batch of salsa. He used 1/10 as many pounds of onions as pounds of tomatoes. He used 1/100th of the amount as pounds as green peppers as he did tomatoes. How many pounds of each ingredient did Ling use? So it is already kind of setting it up for you. It told you, okay, he did 25 5/10 pounds of tomatoes. Now it says with the onions, he used 1/10 as many. So 1/10 means you are going to be dividing it. Remember, 1/10 is just saying you are going to be, that fraction bar is also a division bar. You're actually dividing it by 10. So that is what is happening there. So you are making it smaller by 1 place because it has 1 0. So here, and then it says that he used 100th as many as green peppers. So 100th, if you remember what that is, 100th, that fraction bar is also a division bar. So it's truly saying dividing it by 100. Okay, so therefore, we're going to go ahead and talk about that. So now remember, the other thing you could have said is 1/10 is also written like this. So you could see it either of these 2 ways. So keep that in mind. But so it says that you're going to divide it by 10. That means you are going to make it smaller. Remember, if you make it smaller, you got to move that decimal to the left. And then by 10, that means just 1 place. So if I move this in 1 place, my answer is going to be 2 55 hundredths pounds of onions. Now this one says that you are going to be moving it in 2 times, because remember, you look at how many zeros tells you how many places you need to move it. So you're going to put it right here, and then you're going to make it to the left 2 places. So 1 and 2. So then your answer would be 255 thousandths pounds of green peppers. All right, so this one just says complete the pattern. So here, I just want you to know when you are dividing it by 1, you have no zeros. So that means you are moving it no places, because remember, each place is worth 10. So if you're dividing this by 1, it means it's going to just remain itself. Now this one says you're going to take it and you're going to make it smaller by how many places? Remember, each place is worth 10. So this one is only 1. Again, you can look at how many zeros can tell you. So this is just 1 place smaller. So I'm going to move it this way 1 place. So it would be 3 26 hundredths. Here, you're going to make it smaller by how many places. Again, you look at how many zeros could be your key thing. Also, each place is worth 10. So to get to 100 by tens is 2 tens. So that means 2 places. Just another way of looking at it. So you're going to be moving it in twice. So then this would be 326 thousandths. Here, the exponents are going to be telling you how many places you're going to be moving that decimal. So we're making it, we're dividing, so we're making it smaller. And this is saying you're going to be moving it 0 places. So therefore, your answer is the same. Here it says you're going to be making it smaller by 1 place. So if I move it in 1 place, my answer is 5 2/100. Next, you're going to be moving it in 2 places. So your answer is 500 2/1000. All right, this one, it says just complete the pattern. Well, everything was basically done for you because they said it was 456 and you're going to move it nowhere. So therefore, it's going to remain the same. Then you take 456. Remember, the decimal is always at the back if it is not given to you. And then you're going to be making it smaller by 1 place. So you're going to be just pushing it in 1 place. Then this one, you're going to be moving it in 2 places. And now this one, you're going to still take your 556, which your decimal is always at the end to start off with. And it tells you to make it smaller by 3 places. So I'm going to move it in 3 places, 1, 2, and 3. So your answer is 456 thousandths. Okay, this one, now we're going to do this same stuff. So 225, where's your decimal on 225 is not given to you. It always starts at the end. So you can always put this here just as a reminder as where it begins. Then this one says you are going to divide it by making it smaller by how many places. That decimal is telling you 0. So you're going to be moving it nowhere. So it's going to be staying the same. The decimal is at the end. Now this one says you're going to be making it smaller by how many places. It is telling you 1, so you're going to move it in 1. So therefore it's going to be 22 5/10. Next, you're going to be moving it in how many places. It is saying 2, so I'm going to move it in twice. So then my answer is 2 25/100. This one, I'm moving it in because we're dividing by how many places that exponent tells me. Move it in 3 places. So therefore, your answer would be 225 thousandths. Okay, next one. Still the same thing. It's just giving us our decimal. Our exponent is going to tell us how many places we're going to be moving it. So, but where does the decimal start on this? Remember, if it is not given to you, your decimal is always at the end of that number. So in this case, it's like $605. All right, so on this number, it says you are going to be dividing. So you're making it smaller by how many places? It is saying you're going to move it no places. So therefore, your answer is just 605. This one says you are going to make it smaller by 1 place. So I'm just going to be moving this in 1 place, and it would be 60 5/10. This one, I'm going to be pushing it in twice. So 1, 2. So that would be 6 5/100. Then this one, I'm going to be moving it in 3. So then this would be 605 thousandths. Okay, now this is just another way of saying it. It's saying you're going to divide it by 1. So when you divide a number by 1, it's just going to remain the same. And then there is your decimal. So your decimal is right there and it will remain there. Now this one is saying you're dividing. So you are going to be pushing it in again by how many places? Well, it's just 10. So how many places is that? Again, you can look at your zeros. They're giving you a hint. You are going to be moving it in just once. So I'm going to move it in once. So then that would be 743 thousandths. 7 and 43 thousandths. This one, again, you're dividing, so you're making it smaller, you're moving it to the left. How many places? Again, you can look at how many zeros are giving you your hint. So you're going to move it in twice. So now this is going to be 743 thousandths. All right. So what I want you guys to do is pay attention to these next few, and then I want you to do 8, 9, and 10 on your own to see if you are understanding it. So we're going to do these ones together real fast, and then I'm going to have you stop and try these ones on your own. All right, so this one is saying you're going to divide by 1. So that means you are going to be moving nowhere. Your decimal will remain where it's supposed to be. And since there is no decimal given to you, remember it's always at the end. So that is your decimal. Now this one says you are going to be dividing by 10. Again, look at how many zeros. There's 1. So then that's your hint to just move it in once. So that would be 15 and 6/10. Okay, so this one we are dividing again. So we're moving it to the left. How many zeros? There are 2. So I'm going to be moving it in twice. So it'd be 1 and 56/100. This one, again, I'm going to the left. How many places? Look at your zeros. It is saying 3. So I'm going to move it in 3 from the back. So now my new number is 156 thousandths. All right, this one. Where is your decimal to begin with if it's not given to you? So remember, if it's not given to you, it's always at the end of that number. Now you can go ahead and start. You're going to take 32 and divide it by 1. So how many ones go into 32? Still going to be 32. So it's going to stay the same. That decimal will remain where it's supposed to be. Then this one says you are going to divide, making it smaller, going to the left. How many places? Only once. So I'm going to move this in 1 time. So now it would be 3 and 2/10. Then this one, we are making it smaller. How many places? It is 2. So I'm going to move it in twice. So it would be 32/100. Then this one says we're going to make it smaller by how many places? It would be 3. So then I would go from here. That's 1, 2, 3. So I need a placeholder as well as a number in front of it to tell me 0 holes. So therefore, this is saying 32 thousandths. Same thing here. It's just going to be in exponent form. And I think it's easier in exponent form because it's basically that exponent is telling you how many places to be moving it. So where is the decimals to start off with on 23 if the decimal is not given to you? It is at the end. And then this one tells you to move it 0 places. So therefore, your answer will be just 23. And then this one says you're going to make it smaller by 1 place. So your answer would be 2 and 3/10. This one says to move it in twice. So 1 and 2. So then this one would be 23/100. And then this one tells you to move it in 3 places. So 1, 2, 3. So this is actually saying 23 thousandths. All right, so I want you to go ahead and pause and try 8, 9, and 10 on your own. Okay, so you should have paused, and I'm just going to quickly go over what you should have had as answers here. So you should have had kept the decimal the same, and then moved it over once, and then this one would have been over twice, and you would have gotten those as answers. Here, you should have moved it nowhere, so it would have remained here. Moved it in once, so then it would have been 9 and 25/100, and then you would be moving this in twice, which would be 925 thousandths. Here, you would have been moving it in 0 places, so it would remain where it was supposed to be. This one would just be moving it in once, so it'd be 8 and 63/100. And then this one, you would be moving it in twice, which is 800 63 thousandths. So that was the answers for those. All right, now I'm going to be looking over here at the algebra. It's saying that you're going to take 263 and divide it by something, and it's going to come out to be 268 thousandths. Now, in this case, you got to work backwards. So I'm going to kind of help you out here. To begin with, where is my decimal? To begin with, it is at the end. Now look what had happened. We are making it smaller, so we are moving our decimal this way. And then look at where that decimal became. That decimal is now at the end of these numbers. So how many places did you move it to make it be where it's at now? So if you look, it'd be 1, 2, 3. So therefore you could have said n could have been 3 places. So you could have said 10 to the third power. Also, how else do you write 10 to the third power? You write it as a 1 with 3 zeros, which is also saying 1,000. All right, now it's saying that you had some number and then you made it smaller by 2 places, and then you got this. Now, in order to do this, you actually got to remember that you got to work backwards to find out this. So actually, instead of dividing by 2 places, you're actually going to be multiplying by 2 places. You're going to make this bigger by 2 places. So that means we're going to be moving our decimal this way 2 places to get our original number. So if we move it in 2 places, our number should have been 12 3/10. Okay, next one is saying that we started off with a number and then we made it smaller by 1 place, and it equaled this. So remember, in order to do this, you got to do the opposite. You got to work backwards. So instead of dividing it, you would be multiplying it by 1 place. So therefore, you're going to be shifting it back 1 place, going to the right to make it bigger. So if you move this over 1 place, your answer would have been just 46. All right, now, this one is saying Loretta is trying to build the largest taco in the world. She uses 2,000 pounds of ground beef, 1/10 as many pounds as cheese as beef, and 1/100th as many pounds of lettuce as beef. How many pounds of lettuce and cheese combined did she use? Okay, so we're going to talk, she talked about having beef, right? So she uses 2,000 pounds of beef. So we're going to write 2,000. Okay. So then it says 1/10 as many pounds of cheese as beef. Okay. So then to find how much cheese, you would do 1/10 of the beef, which is 2,000. So remember cheese again, how you would rewrite that is, remember this is saying dividing by 10. So I'm going to rewrite that and say 2,000 divided by 10 is going to give you how many pounds of cheese. And then it says, and 1/100th as many lettuce as beef. Okay, so the lettuce is you would take 1/100th of the beef. So again, to rewrite that to make sense of that, it is taking your 2,000, and remember this means divide by 100. Okay, so now let's go ahead and figure that out. So to figure out how many pounds of cheese that is, it is saying take 2,000 and divide it by 10. That means you are going to make it smaller by 1 place. So where's your number on 2,000 to begin with? It is at the end, and you're going to make it smaller by 1 place. It is now 200. Then here, where's your decimal start off with? It is right there. You are going to make it smaller by 2 places to find the lettuce. So that means I'm going to move it in 2 places, and that would be 20 pounds of lettuce. So 20 pounds of lettuce and 200 pounds of cheese. But the question says, how many pounds of lettuce and cheese combined did she use? So now they want to know how many pounds of cheese and lettuce combined were used. So in order to figure out how much was used, you would be adding those two. So on 200, your decimal's at the end. Remember, you want to line up your decimals. On 20, where's your decimal? It is at the end as well. So make sure you line up those decimals, and now there is just a 20. So if you added this, it would be 0, 2, 2. So that would be 220 pounds of lettuce and cheese is your answer. Okay. All right, next. Here we go. On this next one, it says how much more cornmeal than flour does each muffin contain? Sorry. So if you come over here, you're going to look at cornmeal and flour, but it says, remember, dry ingredients for 1,000 corn muffins. So this is for 1,000, but it's saying for each. They're just wanting to know how much more cornmeal than flour does each muffin contain, not 1,000. They just want one. So in order to do that, I would have to take my cornmeal and then my flour. Now remember, cornmeal is 150 kilograms, but that's for 1,000. So if I want to just figure out one, that means I would have to take this and I would have to divide it by 1,000 to figure out just one. And then same with the flour. It was 110, but that was for 1,000. I just want one. So to figure out one, I got to divide it 1,000 ways. So in order to do so, remember, where is your decimal starting off? They're both at the end. And then this one, remember, means you're going to make it smaller. So you're moving that decimal. And then how many places? Each one of these will be 3 places. So 1, 2, and 3 would equal 1,500. So you could have also said 150 thousandths. Here you'd move this one in 3. So then it would be 110 thousandths. So that is how you do that, but it wants to know how much more. So in order to figure out how much more they use here than here, you would actually have to subtract these two. So if I go and I subtract them, because my decimals are already lined up for me, starting over here, that would be 0 minus 0 is 0. 5 minus 1 is 4. 1 minus 1 is 0. And then that would be a 0. So that would be either, you could have said 40 thousandths of a kilogram, or you could have just said 400ths of a kilogram. So I am just going to come up here and say 40 thousandths of a kilogram. All right. Now this one says, if each muffin contains the same amount of sugar, how many kilograms of sugar to the nearest thousandth are in each corn muffin? All right, so to find out how much sugar is in each corn muffin, it is telling me that this is for 1,000 of them, but they just want one. So in order to do this one, I would simply say 6 and 7/10. But then this is for 1,000. So in order to figure this out, I would have to divide by 1,000. So that means, again, I'm going to be shifting that to the left. How many places? That would be 3 places. So in this case, you would be moving it out 3 places, 1, 2, and 3. So then it says now round it to the nearest thousandth. So if this is where my number was, here's my ones place. So to the thousandths place is right here. So what determines whether that goes up or stays the same is the back one. The 7 is going to tell that one to go up to a 7. So therefore, everything else before it stays the same. So it's actually saying 67 thousandths kilograms for 1. All right, I'm going to go down to here. This one, it says, explain how you know that the quotient of this is equal to the product of this. So remember, this is saying times 1/10 times 1/10. And then this one is just saying divide by 10 to the first power. Well, why is this the same? I'm going to show you. I want you guys to write this down. 1/10 as a decimal, this is what it looks like, which truly means, remember, that fraction bar is also a division bar. So it's truly telling you to divide by 10. Then dividing by 10 just means divide by 10, which is what that becomes when you say divide by 10 to the first power. That means you're going to divide a 1 with 1 0. So that means truly you're dividing by 10. So they are the same thing. All right, and then this one we could have done as well, is we would have just have divided it by 0 places. So they wanted the answer, which would have been the same. This one, you are making it smaller by 1 place. So you're just shifting it in by 1. And then this one, you would be shifting it in twice. So then these would have been the answers for that. All right, now going to your homework. Keep in mind, when you have to divide, that means you are going to go and move that decimal to the left. Okay, so keep that in mind. So that's a visual for you. So here, to start off, where is my decimal to start off with on 179 if it is not given to me? Remember, it is always at the end if it is not given to you. So this one says you are going to be moving it. Keep in mind, those exponents are there to help you as well. It's telling you how many places. This one says you're going to make it smaller because you're dividing. You're going to the left, 0 places. So therefore, I am not moving that decimal anywhere. So that is where it is, 179. This one says I'm going to be making it smaller by 1 place. So I'm going to move it in once. And now it will be 17 9/10. Now this one, making it smaller by 2 places. So it'll be 1 79/100. This one, you would be making it smaller by 3 places. So it'd be 179 thousandths. Now, this one, they're using exponents again. So keep in mind, but they did give us our decimal already. So that's where we're going to be starting. So it says now you're going to make it smaller by 0 places. So therefore, it is going to remain the same. Now this one says you are going to make this one smaller by 1 place. So that means I'm just going to push it in once. So that would be 8 75 thousandths. Now here, you're making it smaller by 2 places. So you're going to be pushing in twice. So now it is saying 875 thousandths. I'm just going to do a couple more with you, and then I'm going to give you your homework. So this one on here, it's just giving us our numbers. Again, you can just simply look at how many zeros there are. That is also your key as to how many places. So where's the decimal to start off on 124? On each one of these, if it is not given to you, remember the decimal is always at the end. Now this one says you're going to divide it by 1. Well, how many ones go into 124? It would be 124 ones. So it's still remaining the same. The decimals at the end did not move. This one, you are going to make it smaller by how many places? That would be 1. So I'm going to move it in 1 place. So it'll be 12 and 4/10. This one, you are making it smaller by how many places? It is 2 places, so 1 and 2. So that would be 1 and 24/100. This one, how many places are you going to be moving it in? That would be 3 places, so 1, 2, and 3. So then this is actually saying 124 thousandths. Okay, next. Here, where is your decimal to start off on this? Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to be doing that one. That is actually your homework. So you are going to be doing 5 and 6 for homework. I am going to be doing this one with you. So your decimal is already given to you, which is good. Now you're going to be dividing it by 1. So when you divide it by 1, that means you're just going to have the same number. So now here, you are going to be making it smaller by how many places? It is only once. So I'm going to push it in 1 place, and it is 5 and 18/100. This one, I'm going to make it smaller by how many places? It is 2. So that would be 518 thousandths. All right, and so also your homework would be 8 and 9, 10 and 11. You are not doing 12. Going to the next page. Your homework on the back is going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you're going to cross out 5, but we are going to do 6 together. So 6 as a commercial jetliner has 245 passenger seats. The seats are arranged in 49 equal rows. How many seats are in each row? So that means you have a total of 245 people on, and you're going to be dividing them amongst 49 rows. So this is where you're going to be using dead monkeys smell crazy bad. So dead monkeys smell crazy bad. For those of you who don't remember the steps, this means divide, then multiply. This one means subtract. This one means check to make sure that our subtraction problem to this is smaller than our divisor. It cannot be equal to or higher than. It has to be smaller. And then bad means bring down. And when you bring down, you start all the way up to the top again. So here, can 49 go into 2? No, it cannot. Can it go into 24? No, it cannot. Can it go into 245? Yes, it can at least go in 1. So this is where you got to guess and check. For those of you who have watched my previous videos, I always tell my students to start at 5 if they have no idea where to start, and then they can go up and down based off of that. So in this case, I'm going to try 5 times, see what that gives me. So 9 times 5 is 45, carry your 4. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 is 24, which is the exact amount that I want. So that means that that is my answer. When I subtract, it'd be 0 remaining. So therefore my answer is 5 seats in each row. Okay, so that is for 5-1. I will stop this and we will do 5-2 next. All right, bye guys.